Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 5 starts now.
Rain exiting the Great Lakes, but the countdown to our next round of showers is on. Will it be here before the holiday weekend?
He terrorized Metro Detroit women for years, but before he goes off to prison, this serial rapist had a message for the judge.
Your Honor.
Well, it's okay with me.
But first, a terrifying string of attacks along I-75 in Detroit. Someone throwing bricks through car windows, and one of them hit a 2-year-old child in the head. In both attacks, there were young children in the car.
And now police are trying to find the people who did it. This all happened last night. First at the I-75 service drive at Canfield, then right down the street at East Warren, and that's where 2-year-old Robin Rivers was hit in the head. Sean Lay is live at Children's Hospital with how she's doing. Sean?
It's absolutely heartbreaking, Devin. I can tell you right now, police, Detroit police, not far from here near 75 and Warren, just over this way, they are searching for that person who is throwing rocks about this size at cars, putting little 2-year-old Robin here in the hospital. She just went into surgery, and we just caught up with her heartbroken mother.
Big girl.
This is little Robin Rivers. She is just 2 years old. Robin is being prepped in this video for emergency surgery this afternoon. Her skull is fractured after someone threw a brick through the window of the car she was riding in. Barbara Williams is Robin's mother. So your baby is in surgery right now?
Yes, right now, at this moment.
What's going through your mind?
That I'm just afraid that I might lose her.
It happened as Barbara, her mother, and Robin were driving along the 75 service drive at Forest at 10:35 last night. There was so much blood. Williams thought her baby had been shot.
It was just blood pouring out her head. I didn't know it was what it was. I thought they had shot my daughter in her head.
Tonight, police are calling the act outrageous.
But what we do want them to know is that we will find you.
But another mother, Brandy Williams,
so I pulled over and confronted the guys.
says police would have found the brick thrower and his 2 friends if they had responded to her call to 911 after she says the same man threw a brick at her car at the service drive in Canfield, narrowly missing her 2-year-old. She turned back and says the teens were walking back up the drive, but she says police told her to call her insurance.
It's nothing we can do because no one was injured.
What do you want this guy who threw the rock to know?
I want him to know that you almost took my baby girl away from me. And that's she all I really have.
All right, back here live, we are certainly praying for little Robin for a speedy recovery as she is now coming out of surgery, and also supporting her mother who's inside with her daughter. The second mom, Brandy Williams, who was hit by this guy with the rock, she went face to face with him, got the best description that we have heard so far today. So we're going to give that to you right now. Light-skinned African-American young man, fade cut haircut, very thin mustache. He's short, 5'7" to 5'8", very thin build. She thinks he is about 17 to 18 years old. And yes, he was wearing that red hoodie seen in both cases. Back to you.
Well, Sean, what happened when the second mother confronted the guy?
What she did was go around, she had 2 kids in the car, took her kids to her work so they were safe. She drove back to the area. The guys were still there. She went face to face with him. She says he apologized to her, took off his hoodie, and was walking away with it at that time. She had wished that a police car had come along at that point because the guys were still in the area.
Wow. All right, Sean.
This is Tim Pamplin along Gratiot at Mount Elliott. Firefighter just been transported from the scene of this wreck here. As I come around the corner, you'll see the Impala smashed right into the side of ladder 6 here. Ladder 6 was responding to a box alarm, a house fire just around the corner when he came through this intersection, and the driver of that Impala, the young lad, 17 years of age, you see him right there, just got his driver's permit, he tells me, slammed on the brakes when he saw the ladder coming through and just slid right into the side. Again, he's okay, clearly. One firefighter has been transported down to DRH. Not sure on his condition. I believe he just got bounced around in the back of the ladder unit here. But that's the scene right now along Gratiot at Mount Elliott. Tim Pamplin, back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Tim. New tonight, a third lawsuit is accusing high-profile attorney Mike Morris of sexual assault.
In fact, all 3 lawsuits filed by attorney Jeffrey Feiger, and in that complaint, the plaintiff accuses Morse of grabbing her breasts in Miami. The Oakland County woman says she was in Florida for a vacation. This was allegedly back in December when she and her friends met Morse at a hotel bar. She says the group all left the bar to go back to their hotels in one car, and during the car ride, he allegedly stuck his hands up her shirt and grabbed her breasts, then asked if she wanted to go back to his hotel with him. She says she turned down the alleged sexual advances, and then months later, he tried to contact her through Snapchat. The plaintiff is seeking $17.5 million. We should point out we have reached out to Mike Morse for a comment about the allegations and have not yet heard back.
All right, you've probably already had enough of the rain. Let's get the sun back in time for the weekend.
We need some sunshine. Let's get over to Ben. And Ben, the rain is starting to move out, right?
It is. It's been light and persistent, though. And in fact, those rainfall totals in Detroit have now topped 1 inch since yesterday. So the totals are starting to add up. We've still got some light stuff, mostly drizzle, hanging out here on the east side. You can see it's just in parts of our north and metro zone. As this all rotates out, we should be dry shortly after sunset tonight. Temperatures are going to be in the 50s once we get past that point, stretching into tonight. Coming up, we'll look at the sunshine that we are expecting tomorrow and the warmer temperatures. That's all in your 4-zone forecast, plus your holiday weekend outlook in just a few minutes, guys.
All right, thank you, Ben. For 5 long years, a serial rapist terrorized women across southeast Michigan.
Now he's off to prison for more than a half a century. Ike Smith pleaded guilty to criminal sexual conduct, home invasion, and robbery. But before he was hauled away, he had some choice words for the judge. Rod Maloney was there.
An openly defiant Ike Smith of Redford is going to spend much of the rest of his young life behind bars. The judge called him a sexual predator. His defense attorney even said that he should be sentenced above the guidelines on criminal sexual conduct. The 33-year-old Redford resident had a late change of heart and tried to undo his guilty plea.
I did file a motion to try to withdraw all.
Well, you file your motion, Mr. I read your motion.
Judge Dalton A. Roberson was having none of it. Smith admits to having entered at least 50 homes over 5 years. He's thought to have raped at least 36 women, many with spouses or children in the home at the time of the attacks. 4 unidentified victims gave their emotional statements today, one wishing him to
go through the fear that all of us went through, being woken up in the middle of the night with a knife to our throats, and taken advantage of. And I hope that he gets that every night. I hope he's scared to go to sleep.
Another spoke of the emotional damage Smith caused.
I've had to choose not to let this destroy me. I've had to not give in to the depression, the anger. I've had to choose life. I've had to choose to fight. I've had to choose to fight for the good that's left in my heart so that the darkness doesn't overtake it.
After receiving a minimum 55 years to 80 in prison, Smith shot back at the judge.
Can I say one thing?
No, go back.
You, Your Honor.
Well, that's okay with me.
Should Ike Smith ever get out of prison, end up on parole, he will remain on the sex offenders list, and more than that, have to spend the rest of his life having monitoring to make sure that he's not attacking other women. In Detroit, Rod Maloney, Local 4.
All right, Rod, you know, the judge needed more than 10 minutes to read all of the above the guideline years in prison. He assessed Smith, then ruled on them to run concurrently, leaving Smith with the 55 years minimum. A class action lawsuit filed today against General Motors and Bosch over diesel emissions in certain trucks.
This lawsuit claims the Silverado and Sierra HD models with Duramax diesel engines have devices rigged to allow more pollution on the road than during treadmill tests, saying they don't comply with EPA regulations. GM disputing the claims, calling them baseless, and saying they will rigorously defend themselves. 3 people taken to the hospital this morning after being seriously injured in a 10-vehicle crash in Washington Township. It happened on M53 near 32 Mile Road. A 54-year-old Detroit man driving a commercial tractor trailer. He crashed into vehicles preparing to stop for a red light at an intersection. Police say they are continuing to investigate the crash.
British police arrested 2 more people today. They also searched a new site in Manchester suspected of links to Monday's bombing that killed 22 people at an Ariana Grande concert. Kelly Kobiela joins us from Manchester tonight with new information on the attacker. Kelly?
8 people are now under arrest in connection with this bombing. The Greater Manchester Police Chief confirming that all 8 are men and also saying that these arrests are, quote, significant.
And initial searches of premises have revealed items that we believe are very important to the investigation.
He also said that searches continue at several properties in and around Greater Manchester and beyond. He said that evidence and other items recovered in some of these searches are, quote, important, and that the searches will take several days to complete. The picture of Salman al-Baidi, the suspected bomber's movements in the days leading up to this attack, now becoming a little bit more clear. Our German news partners ZDF are reporting today, citing intelligence sources, that al-Baidi traveled through Germany just 4 days before the attack last week, traveling from Istanbul to Dusseldorf and then on to the UK. But the big missing piece here still, as far as we're aware, is the suspected bomb-making lab or bomb maker. No announcement that any of the suspects along those lines have been taken into custody as yet. And the British Prime Minister Theresa May saying again today that this country will remain at a critical threat level for now, meaning an attack is possibly imminent. Kelly Kobiella, NBC News, Manchester.
All right, Kelly, a spokesman for an anti-terror force in Libya, by the way, says the Manchester bomber called his mother just hours before the attack and said, and this is the quote, "Forgive me." Season ticket prices for the Red Wings and the Pistons at Little Caesars Arena revealed today.
Coming up new tonight, the sky-high prices some fans will pay and why it may not be as expensive as you thought to try to catch a game.
Also, it's the new frontier in cancer research. Ahead at 5, the breakthrough on the horizon that could help countless people who are battling cancer.
But first tonight, getting through airport security will take even longer. What the TSA is now doing, that's adding an extra step in the process. That's next.
Tonight, new at 6.
One veteran police officer calls it the biggest recovery of stolen goods he's ever seen. At 6 o'clock, how investigators believe a thief collected truckloads of power and construction tools.
Only on Local 4 was so dangerous. He was going about 100 miles an hour, leading police on a chase, and then he slams into this, a strip club.
Is that vehicle stolen?
As you can see, it's all caught on body camera, and I'm going to show it to you on Local 4.
A heads up to those of you who will be flying this Memorial Day weekend. Changes to TSA screenings are underway in 10 cities, including right here in Detroit. TSA already requires travelers to remove laptops from their carry-ons, but now you will also be asked to place any electronic device that's larger than a cell phone into a separate bin. Also going into that bin, thick books and food that can look like explosives on TSA screens.
You have to weed through multiple things in there. The more stuff you put in there, the more organics that are in there, the slower the process is going to become.
Even if it takes us a little longer, I'd rather be safe than have an explosion.
Right now, this is just a pilot program. There's no word just yet if it will go into effect across the country.
Good Health Tonight, a major cancer research conference kicks off June 2nd. Organizers, though, have already released more than 5,000 pieces of research in advance, giving doctors, patients, and investors a preview of where cancer research is heading and how much it might cost. In the battle against cancer, one size definitely does not fit all. A key theme of the latest research is precision medicine. That's treatment that takes into account a patient's individual genes and other factors.
Really trying to figure out what therapies are best for individual patients is, we used to have a handful of chemotherapy drugs that we would give to people in sort of a non-discriminatory way. And now we really, truly realize that some patients will do better with some therapies compared to others. And can we pick the best therapy for each patient?
Another major focus is immunotherapy. Those are medications that use the body's own immune system to attack the cancer. It was Merck's immunotherapy Keytruda that successfully treated former President Jimmy Carter for stage 4 melanoma. But not all patients see such dramatic response.
Some patients don't respond, or they don't respond for very long, so we're really trying to understand more to the next level.
To that end, drug developers are now testing combination therapy to see if multiple drugs together produce better results. But with many of the newest cancer drugs priced at more than $10,000 a month, those combinations come at a big cost, worrying that some patients won't be able to afford new treatments even if they work. Keytruda is making headlines for another reason. This week it became the first cancer drug to be approved based on the genetic problem that it targets instead of the type of cancer it treats. No doubt the first of many. Well, season tickets officially went on sale today for both the Pistons and the Red Wings for their inaugural seasons at Little Caesars Arena.
Yeah, now, unfortunately, it's not going to be cheap, especially if you're a hockey fan. Season ticket packages for the Red Wings starting at $1,800 a seat and cost more than $14,000. That's for the most expensive package. Meantime, Pistons packages starting at $616 a seat, with the most expensive reaching just over $13,000.
It's going to be really interesting to watch how quickly they get snapped up. Given the excitement that there's been about the arena, this will be the test of its real. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. All right. It has been a soggy, rainy, nasty kind of day, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely want to be indoors on a day like today, but we'll make up for it tomorrow. We'll get some sunshine in here and some warmer temperatures too, but for the rest of tonight, at least on the east side, we've still got some of these drizzle areas of drizzle just hanging over the city. The Grosse Pointe's up through southern parts of Macomb County, and it just doesn't want to get out of here. This entire upper level low is still spinning and rotating that moisture back into parts of the area. Even though about half of us, a little more than half, are on the dry side, there is just not a lot of sunshine even in the dry portions. From Pontiac back to the west, it's still overcast, and it looks like it's going to be probably until tomorrow afternoon before we start working in some appreciable sunshine. You can see a little bit of a gap here in the satellite image. It's well west of Chicago, but beyond that, the rain chances won't be too far away from our next shot that's going to be rolling in here Friday night. So we'll get the drizzle out of here by sunset and beyond. We will be dry through the overnight hours. Clouds will keep temperatures just a little bit above average. Then as we go into tomorrow, we'll work some sunshine in on the tail end of tomorrow. That will boost temperatures into the 70s. But notice that Friday night late, stretching into early Saturday morning, we'll have some showers roll in here. The heaviest stuff is going to be down across northern parts of Indiana and Ohio, but we will be seeing at least some scattered showers, probably lingering into around the sunrise hours rather, on Saturday morning. Beyond that, dry conditions during the day on Saturday. Sunday, the rain comes back, and it's going to be probably more hit than miss, especially in the second half of the day. Monday, our chances are going to be there as well. That looks mostly to be in the evening, or I should say the afternoon hours on Memorial Day Monday. 54 tonight as the rain coming to an end, and it's going to stay cloudy even after those showers start to taper off, and we think everybody should be dry by sunset tonight. Let's look at high temperatures tomorrow in our 4-zone forecast. With the addition of even some sunshine, these look better than what we saw today. Low 70s for most of the metro zone. Warmest spots are going to be out in Lenawee County, mid 70s there, 74 in Adrian, 75 in Blissfield. Should see the 70s through most of our west zone, except for parts of Genesee County, which are just going to be in the upper 60s. And in our north zone, numbers are going to be in the 60s here too, except for Lexington, which is close to the water. There's going to be at 59 for high temperatures tomorrow. Warmest and driest of the 3-day stretch is going to be Saturday. Remember, may see a lingering early morning shower here, but the bulk of the day is going to be dry. We'll hit 77. Definitely the pick of the 3-day holiday weekend. Sunday looks like we'll see those showers most likely. Monday, they'll be scattered around in the afternoon, and we will see that unsettled weather continue into early next week. So we still need some warm temperatures in here, but we've had plenty of rain. We don't doubt about it.
Everything's very lush.
It is
all green. Yeah.
That's the positive.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ben. MGM Grand getting flooded with calls for one very specific request. Find out what it is and why it's not available. Up next.
But first, stories from across Michigan, including a massive fire at a well-known business. We'll have that next. Across Michigan, a large fire broke out at the Sundance Chevrolet car dealership in Grand Ledge late last night. A general manager for the used car dealership says the building is a total loss, and about 20 to 30 cars were damaged or destroyed. We're told that Sundance Chevrolet will be open for business today, but will be moving some of their operations to the Frazier building. Cause of that fire under investigation.
In Flint, a former city councilman under investigation after he allegedly pawned his city-issued laptop. Police are investigating claims former councilman Eric Mays pawned the laptop at the Music Man pawn shop in exchange for a $100 loan. Mays reportedly told FlintBeat.com he simply fell on hard times. He also said he plans to pay the loan back. Right now, no formal complaint has been filed, and it's still not clear if he will be charged.
Now to a Local 4 update. The Detroit hotel room where Chris Cornell committed suicide is off limits to guests. The Wayne County Medical Examiner said Cornell died after hanging himself in room 1136 at the MGM Grand a week ago after a concert at the Fox. Since then, the hotel's been flooded with calls from fans requesting to stay in that room. But the room is not going to be made available to any guests, according to officials at the hotel.
New at 5:30.
It's enough to tear apart any marriage. Tonight, we'll show you a new three-prong approach to surviving an affair.
President Trump is continuing his first foreign trip as president, but today with a bit more tension.
He thought he was just starting his Thursday with a nice hot cappuccino.
They took whatever in his wallet.
How one man's beat down here ended up becoming a shootout with police here.
It's dinner time. Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 5:30 starts now.
Police opened fire in a wild armed robbery at a CVS store on Detroit's west side, and it turns out the suspects are teenagers. It tops our news tonight at 5:30. Right now, one 16-year-old is in custody and another in the hospital after police fired shots.
It happened at the CVS store at West McNichols in Wyoming. This was about 5 o'clock this morning. Jason Colthorpe has a look at the wild string of events that led to a fateful encounter with police.
I'm at Oscars Coney Island, where the original victim eventually ran to safety, but it started at the Marathon when he was robbed by two teenagers. They then dragged him over to the CVS, where they robbed someone else, and it all ended minutes after it started when police fired shots. The chaos began with a cappuccino as the teen gunman targeted the man in his coffee, leaving the Marathon at 4:57 a.m.
He was walking through the street, like suddenly there is a car stopped and three jumped. They threw him on the floor and they took whatever in his wallet.
They then dragged him across the street to the CVS, where they encountered a security guard and robbed a female customer.
That one security guard, when the perps came in initially, the perps were masked. They were armed when they came in. They did disarm that security guard.
And they put the gun in her head and they took all her phones and like her phone and all her money and stuff like that.
That's when police arrived and immediately arrested one suspect.
Another suspect was at the rear of the store. They started to follow the suspect. The suspect turned, fired shots at the officers. The officers returned fire. The suspect sustained multiple injuries.
In all the commotion, the two victims who'd been robbed at gunpoint ran to the Coney Island for help.
He was real terrified, teary-eyed and everything. He was really scared for his life.
I'm just glad that my daughter is safe. That's all. I'm glad.
Because I know this CVS always getting robbed all the time. And, you know, so we got to be cautious over here on 6 Mile.
Now, in there, you may have heard one of the witnesses say 3 men. Police say it was 2, not 3. They have both of them, and the one suspect who was shot, they say, was shot in his backside, is expected to live. Devin?
Jason, this also brings up a topic we've covered quite a bit. That Marathon is a green light station. Did that help with the response?
Nobody would say for sure. I mean, they weren't monitoring real time, but obviously it didn't hurt. And I'll just use the words of the man working at the gas station. He said before we were a green light, it would take police 10 to 15 minutes to show up. This morning, 2 minutes they were on the scene, and obviously it was extremely important that they were.
Would seem to answer the question then, wouldn't it? Yeah. All right, Jason.
Another gloomy day here, Ben. It's like we're starting to sound like a broken record.
But it's getting better.
It is. And I know we've got picnics, we've got parades, we've got all kinds of stuff.
That's just at your house.
Yeah. But we're going to have at least some times to get that stuff in over the upcoming 3-day stretch. 4 Live Radar has got the persistent light rain still hanging on to the east side. Looks like the stream is just sort of moving out from the thumb and hanging right over some of the same spots. At least it's light, we can say that much. And a lot of this is just drizzle as well. As this continues to move down towards the lake, this will all rotate out of here by the time we get past sunset tonight. So we're looking at dry conditions beyond that point. 70s do come back into the forecast tomorrow. But for that Friday through Monday stretch, not completely dry. We'll look at the timing on the rain for the holiday weekend, all coming up in just a few minutes. Guys?
All right, thank you, Ben. Flash flooding has created some dangerous driving conditions in the greater Cincinnati area. Authorities say multiple drivers have been left stranded because of high water. One driver had to climb out of his pickup truck's window and then actually waited in the bed of the truck to be rescued. He says a guardrail on the road stopped his mangled truck from floating away. Altogether, 8 adults, 7 children have been rescued. No serious injuries have been reported.
Today marked a milestone for President Trump, giving his first ever speech at NATO headquarters. But the big moment marked by some tension, some of it centering on U.S. intelligence leaks. Blaine Alexander following it for us tonight from Washington. Blaine?
Well, Devin, there is certainly some mending to be done between the U.S. and one of our strongest allies, Great Britain. This after the U.K. accused U.S. officials of leaking intel to the press. Behind the pomp and circumstance in Brussels, a more strained reception for President Trump, speaking today at the brand new headquarters for NATO, the very group he once called obsolete.
I'm honored to be here with members of an alliance that has promoted safety and peace.
A series of perceived missteps drawing criticism. First, scolding allies for not paying their fair share. Then this.
I never asked once what the new NATO headquarters cost.
Later, appearing to shove aside the Prime Minister of Montenegro, and while condemning the Manchester bombing,
it was a barbaric and vicious attack.
The president notably did not reaffirm Article 5 of the NATO treaty, the group's bedrock agreement. An attack on one ally is an attack on all.
It leaves our NATO allies desperately concerned about whether or not the United States is going to be for them as we've promised to be and as they were there for us after 9/11.
And friction with British Prime Minister Theresa May after UK intelligence furiously blamed the US for leaking these evidence photos from the Manchester bombing to the New York Times.
I will be making clear to President Trump today that intelligence that is shared between law enforcement agencies must remain secure.
British investigators now refusing to share information about the case with US law enforcement. And President Trump has ordered the Justice Department to investigate the source of those leaks, a move to restore confidence with one of our strongest allies. In Washington, Blaine Alexander, Local 4.
Former President Barack Obama addressed an international crowd for the first time since leaving office. Obama got a warm welcome while speaking at a Protestant conference in Berlin today. His visit comes as Germany marks the 500th anniversary of the Reformation. Thousands gathered to hear the former president and also the German chancellor talk about democracy. During the talk, Mr. Obama said he does not believe prosperous nations can hide behind a wall. A special election underway in Montana.
Wow, quite the political story today. The Republican candidate has now been charged with misdemeanor assault, accused of body slamming a reporter. It was an altercation that happened last night at the campaign headquarters for Republican candidate Greg Gianforte. A reporter for The Guardian, Ben Jacobs, says he tried to ask the candidate about health care, and that's when Jacobs says he body slammed him. Part of the exchange was caught on Jacobs' audio recorder.
To you about that later.
Yeah, but there's not going to be time. I'm just curious if you have the
speak
right
with
now.
Shane, please.
But you don't.
I'm sick and tired of you guys. The last time you came here, you did the same thing. Get the hell out of here.
Gianforte is among 3 candidates hoping to replace Ryan Zinke, who left Congress because he's joined President Trump's cabinet. The early votes show him with a lead. There is an awful lot of absentee voting, however, in Montana, we should point out, so we'll see what happens as all the votes are counted later tonight. A local man is not only overcoming obstacles, he's helping others do it as well.
In this week's Heart of Detroit, Mitch Albom shows us how Armani Williams is racing for autism.
When Armani Williams was just a child, he fell in love with race car driving.
Ran my very first race and did pretty well. Once I got onto the track, I just knew that this is what I wanted to do for a living.
With a budding career in sight, Armani was not about to allow a diagnosis of autism destroy his dreams.
Ever since I was diagnosed with autism, I didn't know how my life would be. Somehow I've gotten used to it over the years, you know, that like I really am comfortable with it.
Do you think people sometimes misjudge kids who have autism?
People with autism are just good people, you know, just like all of us. What they really need is support, you know, and to treat them with kindness and understanding, an opportunity to just show that, you know, they can become something.
With the support of his family, Armani creates that opportunity with Race for Autism, an organization he founded to introduce autistic children to the world of racing.
What would you like your organization to accomplish?
Create more awareness around autism. In this country, we have 15 million people that have been impacted by autism. I want to help continue inspiring many people that have autism.
Armani is an inspiration, especially with his message to other kids like him.
Always stay encouraged. Always believe in everything that you do and reach for the stars. You know, if you have a dream, go for it.
With a need for speed, Armani Williams is proving that autism creates no limits here in the heart of Detroit.
Good time to think about it, too. It's just about a week before the Grand Prix
Yeah, he's setting
takes
such
over.
a great example, too.
It really is.
It's all about getting that support. So
right.
important.
He's building it. Yep.
Well, with this gloomy weather, a trip to a very sunny beach sounds pretty good right about now.
Let's go. Well, first, though, we'll stick around long enough to tell you which spot was just named the best beach in the U.S. And perhaps you should trust the person who picked it. We'll tell you why. Jamie?
Usually head football coaches are worried about wins and losses, but Coach Creighton here at Eastern Michigan says not today.
I think it's also good for us to know what it feels like.
What the Eagles did to make these kids smile like this.
All right, Jamie, but first, it's a brand new approach that could help save marriages. How many are overcoming infidelity? Up next.
Jeopardy!